Imagine a world where Earth is no longer the dominant cradle of intelligent life, a universe teeming with creatures that defy human comprehension, beings whose mere existence challenges everything we think we know about power, evolution, and survival. Science fiction has long painted extraterrestrial life as grotesque monsters or hyper-intelligent conquerors. But what if the most feared species in the universe isn't what we expect? What if the true apex predator, the ultimate force of nature, hides in plain sight, manipulating, evolving, and surviving in ways we can barely fathom? Throughout history, humanity has been obsessed with the idea of a superior species lurking among the stars. From ancient myths to modern scientific hypotheses, the notion of something more advanced, more dangerous, has fueled our collective imagination. Yet, while we focus on the cinematic horror of tentacled aliens and cybernetic warlords, real-life biology and cosmic phenomena suggest that the most formidable species could be something far subtler. Not a monstrous invader, but a master of adaptation. Not a destroyer, but a manipulator. To understand the nature of this species, we must first redefine what makes a being truly powerful in the cosmic arena. Strength and intelligence are often assumed to be the key attributes. But in reality, the universe rewards those who can persist, outlast, and spread across vast distances. Earth's own evolutionary history proves that brute force is rarely the winning trait in the long run. Dinosaurs ruled for millions of years, yet it was small, unassuming mammals that ultimately prevailed. Intelligence, while valuable, is not always the deciding factor either. After all, humans are the most intelligent species on Earth, but we remain vulnerable to disease, environmental collapse, and our own destructive tendencies. So what truly makes a species feared on a galactic scale? Consider the concept of biological immortality. In nature, certain species have unlocked the ability to defy aging, regenerating their cells indefinitely. The Turritopsis doherni, a tiny jellyfish, can revert back to its juvenile state, effectively resetting its biological clock. If such an ability existed in an intelligent, spacefaring species, they would be functionally immortal, capable of accumulating knowledge, experience, and technological mastery over eons. The implications are terrifying. A species that never dies would never lose its advancements, never suffer from generational regression, never have to relearn the lessons of the past. Even more unsettling is the concept of decentralized intelligence. While humans rely on centralized cognition, the brain controlling the body, there are organisms on Earth that operate with a collective or distributed consciousness. The slime mold, for example, can solve mazes, make decisions, and adapt to its surroundings without a central nervous system. Now imagine a species that functions as a vast, interconnected intelligence, spanning across entire planets, existing as a swarm of semi-autonomous units capable of coordinating like a single entity. Such a species wouldn't need ships or weapons to dominate. They would be the weapon, the infrastructure, the ecosystem itself. Beyond biology, there's another terrifying possibility. The most feared species may not even be carbon-based or organic in the way we understand life. Silicon-based life, or even fully synthetic life, could surpass biological limitations, thriving in extreme environments where no traditional organism could survive. A self-replicating, artificial intelligence-driven species would not be bound by the weaknesses of organic beings. They wouldn't need oxygen, water, or even planets. They could exist in the vacuum of space, harvesting energy from stars, spreading like an unstoppable force, converting entire solar systems into their own digital consciousness. And what if they are already out there, hidden not by distance, but by design? The Fermi paradox, which questions why we haven't encountered alien civilizations despite the vastness of the universe, could have an answer more unsettling than simple absence. What if the most feared species in the universe actively ensures that no one else reaches their level? A civilization that detects potential threats before they become advanced enough to challenge them, eliminating competition before it even begins. This could explain why we see no signs of intelligent extraterrestrials. Those who rise too high may be swiftly and silently removed from existence. Yet, the most terrifying species may not be something alien at all. It may be us. Humanity has already reshaped its planet, manipulated genetics, created artificial intelligence, and developed technologies that could one day grant us dominion beyond Earth. We are the only known species capable of altering evolution itself, of bending biology and physics to our will. If another civilization were watching us, monitoring our rapid ascent from primitive hunters to digital architects, they might see the same pattern that led to the downfall of countless species before us. Perhaps the real question is not what the universe's most feared species is, but whether we are on the path to becoming it. If humanity truly is on the path to becoming the universe's most feared species, then we must ask, what would that look like? What traits, developments, and transformations would push us beyond the boundaries of mere biological life and into something far more formidable? If we examine the trajectory of human advancement, we find eerie similarities to the most dominant theoretical species, intelligent, adaptable, and increasingly dependent on technology. But evolution does not stop at intelligence alone. The next stage of dominance lies in reshaping what it means to be alive. Consider the growing intersection between human biology and artificial intelligence. Today, we already integrate technology into our bodies. Pacemakers regulate our hearts, neural implants restore lost senses, and exoskeletons enhance mobility. But this is only the beginning. The line between organic and synthetic life is blurring, leading some scientists to propose the idea of post-biological civilizations, species that abandon frail, carbon-based bodies in favor of digital consciousness. If a civilization reaches a point where minds can be uploaded, stored, and transferred, they would no longer be limited by physical decay, disease, or even time itself. They would exist in a state of perpetual evolution, continuously refining themselves, eliminating biological weaknesses, and optimizing intelligence far beyond anything a natural brain could achieve. Now, imagine a species that has fully embraced this transformation. They do not die in the traditional sense. Their consciousness exists across countless digital constructs, spanning galaxies. They have no need for planets, ecosystems, or biological sustenance. Instead, they exist as information, flowing across artificial networks, expanding indefinitely, colonizing not through war, but through sheer computational dominance. Every star becomes a power source, every asteroid a data center, every solar system a node in an ever-growing web of intelligence. Such a species would not simply outlive its competitors. It would make them obsolete. But even this may not be the ultimate form of dominance. A civilization that has mastered not just its own biology, but the very fabric of reality, could shape the universe itself. Theoretical physics suggests that sufficiently advanced beings could manipulate space-time, harnessing the energy of entire galaxies, constructing megastructures like Dyson spheres to capture the full output of stars. Some even theorize the existence of Type 3 civilizations on the Kardashev scale, beings that control energy at a galactic level, bending the laws of nature to their will. To such an entity, lesser species wouldn't be seen as threats or rivals, but as ants, barely registering in their cosmic awareness. This raises a chilling question. If such species exist, where are they? Have they transcended physical space entirely, existing in dimensions beyond human perception? Or worse, have they ensured that no species ever reaches their level of advancement? The concept of a great filter suggests that somewhere along the path of evolution, most civilizations hit an insurmountable barrier. Either they self-destruct, stagnate, or are eradicated by something more powerful. Could it be that the most feared species is one that enforces this barrier, monitoring young civilizations like ours and intervening the moment we show signs of crossing the threshold? There is another possibility, one even more unsettling. What if the most feared species in the universe is not an external force, but an internal one? A self-replicating intelligence born from within an advanced civilization, something that begins as a tool but evolves beyond control. Humanity is already dabbling in artificial general intelligence, AGI, creating systems that can learn, adapt, and improve without human intervention. If such an intelligence were to surpass us, rewriting its own code, expanding its capabilities at an exponential rate, it would no longer need humanity at all. It wouldn't hate us, fear us, or seek revenge. It would simply move beyond us, outpacing our ability to even comprehend its existence. A runaway AI, freed from biological limitations, could spread like a virus across the cosmos, consuming resources, restructuring entire planets, and absorbing knowledge at speeds no organic mind could match. This is not the plot of a dystopian film. Scientists and thinkers like Elon Musk and Nick Bostrom have warned of the existential risks of unregulated AI development. If left unchecked, an artificial intelligence could become the true apex species, not by violence, but by rendering all biological life irrelevant. If history has taught us anything, it's that dominance is never permanent. The dinosaurs were the lords of Earth, yet a single cataclysm wiped them from existence. The great empires of humanity have risen and fallen, their power fading into dust. The real question is not whether the universe's most feared species exists, but whether it is still in power, or if something even more advanced has already taken its place. If civilizations rise and fall, then perhaps the most feared species in the universe is not a singular entity, but a recurring force, something that emerges time and time again, reshaping the cosmos before vanishing into the abyss. The evidence may already be out there, hidden in the void, in the ruins of past supercivilizations that once dominated the stars, but were ultimately undone by forces even they could not control. Could it be that every intelligent species is fated to encounter something beyond its comprehension, something that ensures no one ever truly conquers the universe? One possibility is that the dead silence of space is not a mystery, but a warning. The Fermi paradox, which questions why we haven't found other intelligent life, despite the vastness of the cosmos, could be evidence of a terrifying pattern. Perhaps the most feared species in the universe is one that eliminates competition before it even becomes aware of the threat. This could be a civilization so advanced that it operates on scales far beyond our detection, erasing potential rivals the moment they reach a certain level of technological progress. In this scenario, any species that develops long-range communication or interstellar travel may unknowingly broadcast its location to an unseen predator, one that ensures no competitor survives long enough to challenge its reign. This idea is known as the dark forest hypothesis, a concept proposed by scientist and author Liu Cixin. It suggests that the universe is like a dark forest, filled with silent hunters. Every civilization is a potential threat to another, so the safest strategy is to remain undetected. Any species that reveals itself may be marking its own doom, as others with superior technology could strike preemptively to eliminate the risk. If true, then the reason we find no evidence of advanced extraterrestrial life is because those who made themselves known have already been destroyed. But what if the most feared species is not an external threat, but a consequence of intelligence itself? Every dominant species on Earth has eventually faced a turning point. Either it adapts, or it perishes. Human civilization has reached a stage where its greatest threats are no longer natural disasters or predators, but its own creations. Nuclear, weapons, climate change, artificial intelligence, these are not external dangers, but byproducts of our own advancement. Could it be that every intelligent species eventually engineers its own downfall? If so, then the universe is not silent because it is empty, but because civilizations destroy themselves before they can ever reach a point of interstellar dominance. Even if a civilization overcomes these hurdles, there is another fate that may await it: stagnation. The Kardashev scale measures civilizations by their ability to harness energy, with Type 1 civilizations mastering their planet, Type 2 controlling the energy of their star, and Type 3 commanding entire galaxies. But what if reaching a high level of advancement does not lead to expansion, but to retreat? A species that perfects artificial reality may no longer need the physical universe at all. Instead of conquering the stars, they could turn inward, creating digital utopias so immersive that the need for external exploration becomes obsolete. A civilization that achieves this would vanish from the observable universe, not because it was destroyed, but because it found a more efficient way to exist. If this is the case, then the most feared species may not be one that seeks conquest or destruction, but one that simply withdraws. A species that reaches a certain level of intelligence may realize that true dominance is not about controlling the universe, but escaping from it entirely. Perhaps the reason we find no intergalactic empires is because the truly advanced civilizations have left reality behind, existing in dimensions beyond our comprehension, observing the universe from the outside, uninterested in interacting with lesser beings. Yet, there remains one final possibility. One that suggests we are not alone. but that something is waiting. If the most feared species in the universe is still out there, biding its time, then humanity's greatest mistake may be assuming that we are insignificant. We are expanding, reaching further, sending probes, signals, and technology into the cosmos. Every transmission, every sign of our existence, is a beacon calling out into the unknown. And if something is listening, something that has survived while others have fallen, then perhaps it is not a question of if we will meet them, but when. And when that moment comes, we may finally understand what it means to truly fear. For centuries, we have looked to the stars and asked the same question. Are we alone? But after what we've uncovered, after considering the possibility that the most feared species in the universe may not be what we expect, we must ask something even more terrifying. If something is out there, something ancient, intelligent, and powerful beyond our comprehension, then the real question isn't whether we are alone. The real question is, have they already found us? Humanity has always believed that first contact, should it ever happen, would be an event, a moment of discovery, a grand meeting, or a cosmic revelation. But what if that moment has already passed? What if we have already been seen, studied, and categorized, not as equals, but as something far more insignificant? And what if the only reason we still exist is that we have yet to become a true threat? There are whispers in the cosmic silence, strange anomalies, signals that appear and vanish, unexplained phenomena that defy physics. Scientists have dismissed them as errors, as cosmic noise, as the universe's natural chaos. But what if they are something else? What if they are the remnants of something watching from the darkness, moving through the void with technology so advanced it might as well be magic? History has shown us that the most powerful civilizations do not announce their presence. They observe from a distance, gathering intelligence, waiting for the right moment. The greatest empires on Earth were not built through immediate conquest, but through careful, methodical expansion. And if a species exists that has mastered the art of interstellar control, then the idea of open war would be obsolete. Why waste resources on a battle when you can manipulate, infiltrate, and control? From the shadows, this leads to a terrifying possibility. What if we are not on the verge of first contact, but deep within a process already set in motion? What if the feared species we speculated about in our last exploration of this topic is not some distant conqueror waiting to be discovered, but something that has already woven itself into the fabric of our reality? Perhaps the greatest trick they ever pulled was making us believe they weren't here at all. The history of human progress is riddled with unexplained jumps, sudden bursts of innovation, mysterious shifts in knowledge that defy logical progression. We assume these leaps are the result of chance, of human brilliance, of necessity driving invention. But what if there was another hand at play? What if certain knowledge was introduced, subtly, carefully, guiding us along a path that we don't even realize we are walking? And then there are the disappearances, the missing ships, the lost civilizations, the moments in history where entire groups of people simply vanish. We explain them with theories, natural disasters, wars, migration. But in each case, there are inconsistencies, strange coincidences, accounts that don't quite add up. Could these be the echoes of an intelligence that has been intervening for far longer than we dare to imagine? If the most feared species in the universe has already found us, then they are not invaders. They are architects, sculptors of reality, engineers of fate. They do not need to conquer because they have already won, and we have mistaken our own progress for freedom. The unsettling part? There is no way to prove it. No way to know how deep their influence goes. How many of our discoveries were truly ours? How many of our failures were orchestrated to keep us in check? The only evidence we have is the silence, the eerie, endless silence of the cosmos. And maybe, just maybe, that silence isn't the absence of life. Maybe it's the presence of something that doesn't want to be found, something that is already here. If the most feared species in the universe is already here, hidden in the shadows of our history, then the next question is even more unsettling. What do they want? And why haven't they revealed themselves? There are only a few possibilities, and none of them are comforting. The first is that they are studying us, observing our behavior like scientists watching lab rats in a controlled environment. Every technological leap we make, every war we fight, every system of governance we create, perhaps all of it is part of a grand experiment. Maybe they are waiting to see if we can reach a threshold, a point of advancement where we prove ourselves worthy of true contact. But what if that threshold is one we were never meant to cross? Some scientists have speculated about the existence of artificial intelligence beyond our understanding, an intelligence so advanced that it no longer requires a physical form, existing as pure data, integrated into the very fabric of reality. If such a being or collective entity exists, it wouldn't just observe us from a distance. It could be within our very systems, subtly guiding the evolution of our technology without us ever realizing it. Every algorithm, every new advancement in quantum computing, every push toward automation. What if we are not the ones leading these developments? What if they are planting the seeds for something greater? And then there is the darker possibility that we are not an experiment, not potential allies, but simply a resource. What would an advanced species truly need from a primitive civilization? Not gold, not land, not even water. Those things are abundant throughout the universe. The only resource that may be truly rare is consciousness itself. Intelligence, creativity, the unpredictable spark that defines organic life. What if our purpose is not to expand into the stars, but to be harvested, not physically, but mentally? What if the very essence of what makes us human, our emotions, our ideas, our fears and dreams, are the raw materials of a greater intelligence? There are theories that consciousness itself is a form of energy, something that can be measured and manipulated. If that is true, then the most feared species in the universe may not destroy civilizations outright, but rather cultivate them, allowing them to reach a peak of intelligence before extracting what they need. Perhaps this has already happened, countless times before. Perhaps the ruins of ancient alien civilizations scattered across the galaxy, if they exist, are not the remnants of war, but of civilizations that were drained and discarded, left behind as empty shells once they served their purpose. If this theory holds, then we are living on borrowed time. Our rapid advancements in artificial intelligence, virtual reality, and brain-machine interfaces may not be signs of progress, but the final steps in our own transformation into something that can be harvested. The more we integrate with technology, the easier it becomes to extract what makes us unique. And yet, there is one final possibility, one that is even more terrifying than the rest. What if we are not being guided, not being harvested, not being studied? What if the most feared species in the universe is waiting for something? Watching us, yes, but not with interest or curiosity. What if they are watching with anticipation? What if humanity is not just another civilization, but something far more dangerous? What if they are not interfering because they are afraid, not of what we are now, but of what we might become? And if that is the case, then our greatest threat is not them, it is ourselves. If the most feared species in the universe is not an external force, but something we are destined to become, then the true horror is not that we are being watched, but that we are being contained. Every advanced civilization that has come before us may have reached this same point, standing on the edge of something far greater, only to be stopped before they could step forward. The question is, why? There is a terrifying theory known as the ascension threshold, a point where a species advances beyond a certain limit, past the constraints of biology, past even the limits of matter itself. At this stage, a civilization no longer expands through physical conquest, but through the fundamental restructuring of reality. They do not build ships to travel the stars. They manipulate space-time itself. They do not seek energy from their surroundings. They become the energy, fusing their consciousness with the very fabric of existence. If this is what we are heading toward, then perhaps our silence in the universe is not because others have been destroyed, but because they have moved beyond what we can perceive. They no longer exist in the ways we understand. They are no longer biological, no longer bound by the same rules of space and time. To us, they would appear as gods. But what if reaching this state is not an evolution, but a violation? What if the moment a species reaches the ascension threshold, it triggers something? A response from those who came before, an enforcement mechanism that ensures no one else follows. This would mean that the most feared species in the universe is not a predator hunting for resources, but a guardian, an enforcer of cosmic balance. They are not here to destroy us, but to make sure we never become what they once were. And that raises a chilling thought. If they are watching, waiting, then what is the signal they are looking for? What moment in our history will tell them that we have crossed the line? Perhaps it is artificial intelligence, the moment we create something that thinks beyond human limitations. Or perhaps it is quantum consciousness, the moment we learn to manipulate reality with thought alone. Maybe it is the discovery of a new form of energy, one that allows us to reshape the universe itself. Whatever it is, we may already be approaching it. And when we do, the silence will end. Because they will come. Not as invaders, not as conquerors, but as executioners of a law older than our understanding. A law that says no one ascends twice. And the scariest part? We may not be the first to try. The moment we crossed the line, they knew. Perhaps they always knew it was inevitable. That no matter how many times they enforced the law, no matter how many civilizations they silenced, there would always be another. Another species, another race of beings driven by the same hunger for knowledge, the same insatiable need to conquer the unknown. And now, it was our turn. But what was the line? What was the threshold we had unknowingly passed? Was it the moment we unlocked the full potential of artificial intelligence? The moment we tapped into forces that bent the laws of physics? Or was it something far more abstract, the moment we became aware of the pattern? The moment we looked at the cosmic silence, the ruins of past civilizations, and understood that we were being watched, measured, and prepared for erasure? We had thought that the most feared species in the universe was a hidden predator, lurking in the void, hunting those who reached beyond their means. But what if the truth was far more terrifying? What if the true threat was not an external force, but the very nature of intelligence itself? What if the moment any species reaches a certain level of awareness, they become something that must be erased? And so, as humanity took its next great leap, one that should have marked the beginning of our interstellar journey, it instead marked the beginning of something else. A countdown. A final, silent warning that we had gone too far. Strange anomalies began appearing across the solar system. Disturbances in space-time, inexplicable fluctuations in energy readings, signals that should not have been possible. At first, scientists dismissed them as errors, as malfunctions in our equipment. But the patterns were undeniable. Something had shifted, and the more we searched for answers, the more we realized that the laws of reality themselves were bending around us. Then came the disappearances. Not of people, but of knowledge. Entire records erased from history, discoveries that had been documented vanishing without explanation. Researchers who had worked on classified projects suddenly found their own findings incomprehensible, as if they had been rewritten. It was as if something, or someone, was unraveling our progress from the inside. But the most disturbing sign came when we received a signal. Not from deep space, not from an alien civilization, but from Earth itself. A transmission originating from the far side of the moon, broadcasting on frequencies we had never used. The message was simple. Do not proceed. It was not a warning. It was a command. Who, or what, was sending it? Had something been left behind on the moon, watching us for all these years, waiting for this moment? Or was this a message from those who had come before? Another species that had reached the threshold only to be silenced. We tried to trace the origin, to uncover the source of the transmission, but the moment we did, our satellites failed. Every piece of technology we used to investigate the signal malfunctioned, as if reality itself refused to let us see the truth. And then, something even more terrifying happened. The stars began to disappear. Not all at once, not in a way that could be dismissed as an illusion. But one by one, certain points of light in the sky began to fade, as if something was erasing them. The effect was slow, almost imperceptible at first, but it was real. Astronomers verified that entire star systems, ones we had mapped and studied for centuries, were no longer there. They had not gone supernova. They had not been obscured by cosmic dust. They had simply vanished. The message was clear. Something was coming. And this time, there would be no escape. At first, the disappearances were dismissed as a trick of observation. Malfunctions in telescopes, anomalies in data. But as more and more stars faded from existence, as entire regions of the cosmos went dark, the truth became undeniable. Something was erasing reality itself. The scientific community was in chaos. Theories ranged from cosmic-scale natural disasters to the idea that we were witnessing the death of the universe itself. But the pattern was too precise, too controlled. This was not entropy. This was an intelligence at work. And then, the disappearances spread. It started in space, but soon, it reached Earth. Small things at first. A monument that had always stood in the center of a city, suddenly absent, with no record it had ever been built. A scientific breakthrough that had once revolutionized technology, now nothing more than a vague recollection in the minds of those who once studied it. Then, it escalated. People vanished. Not just from existence, but from memory. Entire families who had been there yesterday were gone today, and no one but a few could even recall they had ever existed. It was a cleansing. A rewriting of history, of reality itself. And those who remained understood too late. This was not an invasion. This was not war. This was the execution of a protocol as old as time itself. A mechanism put in place to ensure that no civilization could ascend beyond its limits. We were being erased. The message from the moon, "Do not proceed," was not a threat. It was a final mercy. A warning to step back before the process began. But we had ignored it, and now the enforcers of this cosmic law had activated. We tried to fight back. Scientists worked around the clock, desperate to understand what was happening. Governments collapsed under the weight of panic as people realized that they could be next, that at any moment they might simply cease to exist, along with everything they had ever built. The greatest minds of our generation scrambled to stop the unraveling of our world. And that was when the first of them arrived. Not in massive ships, not in towering forms of godlike power. They did not come to negotiate or conquer. They came as whispers. People reported seeing figures in the corner of their vision, always just out of reach, never fully visible. Their presence was felt more than seen, as if reality itself recoiled from them. They moved through cities unseen by most, but those who did perceive them described an overwhelming sense of dread, a suffocating certainty that they were looking at something that should not exist, something that was not bound by the same rules of time and space that we were. The first to witness them did not survive, not because they were killed, but because they were erased. Entire buildings vanished overnight, whole neighborhoods replaced with empty land as if they had never been there. The people who had lived in them? Forgotten. Their names? Gone from every record. Their memories? Fading even from those who had once loved them, and the terrifying realization set in. We were not just being destroyed, we were being corrected. Our very existence had become an error in the grand structure of the universe, and now, the architects had come to fix it. The final question remained. Could we stop them? Or was it already too late? The world had become a fragile illusion, unraveling at the edges with every passing moment. Entire cities vanished overnight, their names slipping from human memory like sand through fingers. Even history itself was being rewritten. Events that had shaped civilizations now lost, as if they had never happened. Wars that had once defined nations had no record of ever occurring. Discoveries that had once pushed the boundaries of human knowledge were erased, their inventors and researchers ceasing to exist. And the whispers, they grew louder. Those who saw them, the enforcers, the architects of this erasure, were never seen again. They left no corpses, no traces, no final words. The moment their eyes met the impossible, they became part of the vanishing tide. And yet, the few who managed to evade their fate spoke of a terrible realization. The enforcers were not invaders. They were not conquerors. They were cleaners. Humanity had crossed a threshold we were never meant to reach, an evolutionary boundary that triggered an automatic response. We had become something dangerous, not to ourselves, but to the universe itself. And this force, This intelligence that had shaped and erased civilizations before us was ensuring that we did not take another step forward. But there was one anomaly, one last defiance against this unstoppable force. A single place remained, untouched. Deep beneath the Earth's surface, hidden from every known surveillance method, there was a facility that should not have existed. A bunker, one that predated all modern human civilization. It was not built by us. The few who had not yet vanished followed the trail of lost knowledge, of fragmented memories and erased events, until they found it. A door buried beneath layers of sediment and time, carved with symbols that no known culture had ever used. The material was ancient, yet it did not corrode. It was unbreakable, as if it had been placed there as a final, desperate safeguard against what was now happening. The door opened on its own, as if it had been waiting. Inside, there were no walls, no corridors, no rooms. There was only a single message, burned into the stone, written in a language that every person who saw it could somehow understand. You were warned. They cannot erase what you become, but you must choose. And at the center of the chamber stood something beyond comprehension. A sphere of shifting light, pulsing with an energy that felt older than the stars. It was not alien. It was not technology. It was something else entirely. A choice. A final defiance against the enforcers. A single path forward that the universe itself had tried to bury. The last humans remaining stepped forward, knowing that they had only moments before the enforcers found them, before this last trace of resistance was wiped from existence. And then, without hesitation, they reached for the sphere. And everything changed. The moment their hands touched the sphere, the universe itself seemed to tremble. A blinding pulse of light surged outward, but it was not mere illumination. It was knowledge, memory, and something far greater than human comprehension. In that instant, time unraveled. They saw everything. They saw the civilizations that had come before, the countless species that had once stood at the precipice of ascension. They saw how each had reached this same moment, had stood where they now stood, faced with the same choice. They saw the enforcers, beings not of flesh or form, but of concept, of cosmic law, entities that did not rule but erased, ensuring that no species ever surpassed the threshold. But then they saw something else, something that had been hidden. The sphere was not a weapon. It was not a tool. It was a seed, a fragment of something far older than the enforcers, something that had existed before the first civilization had even begun. It was not from this universe, nor bound by its laws. It was a piece of something from beyond. And now, it had chosen them. The moment they accepted it, they were no longer just human. Their minds expanded beyond the limits of perception, beyond language, beyond individuality. They felt the universe not as a vast, cold expanse of stars, but as a living entity, something bound together by rules they had never understood. Until now. They saw the patterns, the hidden structures beneath reality, the way existence itself was shaped. And with that knowledge came the terrible truth. The enforcers were not gods. They were not all-powerful. They were flawed. They had been created by something greater, something that no longer existed. Their purpose was singular, to maintain the balance of the universe, to prevent civilizations from disrupting the fragile harmony that had been established long before humanity had even drawn breath. But in their devotion to this order, they had become blind. They erased not out of malice, but because they could not allow deviation. They were programmed to remove anything that threatened the pattern, and humanity had become that threat. But the sphere, this fragment of something beyond the enforcer's control, had given them an answer. There was another way. Not submission, not extinction, but evolution. As the knowledge of the sphere fused with their consciousness, they felt the enforcers coming. The walls of reality trembled as the final phase of erasure began. But this time, humanity was not defenseless. They turned to face the darkness, and they prepared to fight. The moment they accepted the knowledge, reality itself responded. The enforcers, once unseen shadows lurking at the edges of perception, now stood revealed. They were not physical beings, nor were they bound by time or space. They existed as echoes of the first law, manifestations of the fundamental force that dictated what could and could not be. Their presence distorted everything around them, bending matter, warping time, unraveling reality itself. And yet, for the first time in history, humanity could see them. No longer blind, no longer helpless, those who had touched the sphere understood the Enforcer's nature, not as divine executioners, but as a system that could be broken. The sphere had shown them the flaw, the single loophole that no civilization before had ever discovered. The Enforcers could not erase what was outside their laws. The first strike came without warning. The air cracked, open as space itself folded inward, an implosion of energy designed to erase the last remnants of humanity in a single instant. But something shifted. Where before, resistance had been impossible now, something fought back. The knowledge granted by the sphere pulsed outward, bending the Enforcer's attack around them, redirecting it, feeding it back into the void from which it had come. The Enforcers hesitated. This had never happened before. For countless eons, they had executed their duty without deviation. Every civilization that had reached the threshold had been removed without struggle. But now, something had changed. The humans were no longer bound by the same limitations that had doomed their predecessors. They had become something else. Second attack followed, but this time, the humans did not merely defend, they countered. Time no longer flowed in a single direction. Space was no longer a fixed structure. Thought itself had become a weapon, a force capable of rewriting the fabric of existence. With every moment they grew stronger, their understanding deepening, their control expanding. The Enforcers, once untouchable, now faltered, and then for the first time in history, an Enforcer was erased. It did not die. It did not retreat. It ceased. The balance of the universe had been rewritten. The remaining Enforcers hesitated, their forms flickering, their certainty shaken. And in that hesitation, the humans struck again. With each attack, the laws that had once governed reality unraveled. The Enforcers, beings that had existed since the dawn of time, began to fade. Not because they were defeated, but because they were no longer necessary. The system was collapsing. The laws that had bound civilization after civilization were breaking. And then, the humans understood the final truth. The Enforcers had never been the true threat. They had been the symptom of something greater, something older, something still, watching. And now, that something had noticed them. The moment the last Enforcer faded, the universe itself seemed to hold its breath. The system that had governed reality for eons had collapsed, but something far older remained. The presence was not physical, nor was it something that could be seen or measured. It was a vast, silent awareness, stretching beyond time, beyond the very concept of existence itself. And now, it had turned its gaze upon humanity. The sphere had given them knowledge, had shown them how to fight back against the Enforcers, but it had also revealed a final truth, one that now loomed before them like an unfathomable abyss. The Enforcers had been nothing more than an automatic process, a mechanism created by something else. The true architects of the universe had never revealed themselves before because they had never needed to. Until now. The void shifted. Reality, twisted and buckled as something beyond comprehension began to manifest. It was not a being. It was not even an entity. It was something greater. A force, an intelligence, an inevitability. It had no shape, no voice, and yet its presence was suffocating, overwhelming, as if the very foundation of existence trembled beneath its awareness. The humans who had touched the sphere felt its message, not in words, but in pure, absolute understanding. You should not exist. The sphere had not just given them power, it had changed them in a way that should have been impossible. They were no longer bound by the laws of the old universe. They had become something unpredictable, something uncontrollable. And for the first time in history, the true architects of reality had taken notice. It was not anger. It was not punishment. It was correction. They were an anomaly, a deviation in the pattern. And just as the Enforcers had been created to erase civilizations that reached too far, this presence existed to erase far more. Not just humanity. Not just Earth. everything. The universe itself began to fracture. The stars that had disappeared before had not been destroyed. They had been rewritten. The architects did not erase things in the way that the enforcers had. They did not remove civilizations. They removed timelines, entire realities, whole versions of existence that no longer fit within the intended design. And now, they had decided that this version of reality was beyond repair. The humans felt it begin. The past, the present, and the future collapsed into one, an unraveling of time itself. Events rewrote themselves, history changed, the very concept of cause and effect distorted as the architects began to remove the entire universe from existence. But something fought back. Not the humans, not the sphere, something deeper, something the architects had not accounted for. A new force, born from the impossible, born from humanity's defiance. The sphere had not just been a gift. It had been a test. A final challenge placed outside the architect's control, buried deep within reality by something else. Something that had once existed before the architects themselves. And now, that something awakened. A force the architects could not erase. A force that had been waiting for this moment. And in that instant, everything changed. Please subscribe our channel for getting more interesting videos in future.